Hello and welcome to our review of Star Trek Beyond.
So this review is going to be a spoiler-free review, so don't worry if you haven't seen it, you can still watch it and we won't spoil anything for you.
So this movie is tonally much more akin to the original series than the previous two films are.
So unlike the other two movies that have been in this trilogy so far, this one sort of only follows one mission and it's not as messy as the other movies were. It's got more of a direct narrative. They're on one mission and it's got a beginning, middle and end and you know exactly what's going on the whole time.
So because it feels more like just an episode of a TV show, the villain feels almost like a villain of the week, where you can tell he's just evil because he's evil. He doesn't really have a clear-cut motivation until a bit later on in the film, but then even then it's just, I'm gonna kill people for the sake of killing people.
So unlike the other movies, the characters and everyone in the film are really well established already, so you sort of just jump straight into the story, which is great because you don't need to establish the relationships or the characters.
So thankfully this time, none of the crew of the Enterprise are at odds with each other. They're all just working together to just defeat the villain at the end of the day and save everyone.
Due to having all of the established characters, there's a lot more room to sort of develop them. So Scotty gets more development, Bones gets more development, and Chekhov especially, he gets a lot more development in this movie.
So this film feels really tight and well-rounded. Everything right from the start all the way up to the end, everything introduced comes back later. Everything in there is there for a purpose. And it plays a part in the story.
So the finale to this movie starts off really strong. You get this massive sort of star battle. It's really interesting. It's beautiful. The CGI in this film is insane. But then it sort of fizzles down into just a fist fight between two of the characters, and it feels a bit
underwhelming.
Yeah.
Something we both agree on is that this film, because of its episodic feel, we think that they could easily make a long-running series off of these sort of standalone movies where beginning, middle and end is very clear.
Yeah, I feel like I'd be really interested to see this crew do more and see them sort of go through time like they're kind of rumoured to in the next movie coming out. We're also both really excited for number 4 now due to the sort of quality of this movie. This movie has made up for the shambles that was Into Darkness.
So the director Justin Lin really nails the sort of feel of classic Star Trek. But there are a few shots here and there during action scenes where the camera's a bit too close to whatever's going on. You can't really see the big picture and it does get a bit confusing, a bit claustrophobic at times.
So Doug Jun and Simon Pegg, who wrote this movie together, do a really good job of also capturing the Star Trek sort of feel to it. However, it's quite obvious in places that Simon Pegg wrote this movie because his character gets more screen time, a bigger sort of importance to the plot, and just sort of a lot of the funny lines in the film.
So talking about the actors, Chris Pine really nails Captain Kirk in this film now. He truly has become the captain of the ship.
Yeah, you really get a sense of sort of authority from him, which you didn't really get in the other films. He was just sort of a bit buddy with all of them.
Yeah.
Someone else who's sort of always had that role sort of nailed is Carl Urban. But in this film, he's sort of stepped up his game a bit, which I didn't think was possible.
I think it's possibly because he's got a bit more screen time as well, and so he just really gets more time to really get into the character, come out through every scene that he's in.
Yeah, he was definitely more important and more of a sort of key player in this film.
So Zachary Quinto playing Spock is given a bit more depth in this film, and they sort of play to his human side a bit more, where we see a few scenes where he uses a bit more of his emotion and isn't fully robotic, sort of Vulcan.
So someone who we both forgot was in this film up until we were sort of walking into the cinema and I turned to Sam and went, oh yeah, by the way, remember this? Is Idris Elba's in this movie. To be honest, we're not entirely sure why he was needed for this movie because he's only really given a sort of a small acting role. He's just sort of a big name, a bit like Oscar Isaac in X-Men Apocalypse. So a new addition to the film is the character Jayla, who's seen quite heavily in the trailers, and she's played by Sofia Boutella. And she's very good. She's really involved in the narrative and is used quite a lot for exposition, but the exposition makes sense and isn't like slapping you in the face the whole time.
So they deal with the passing of Leonard Nimoy quite well in this film, because obviously he was in the previous films as the older Spock from the future.
Ambassador Spock.
The way they sort of go about his death in this film is quite nice. They use the sentiment of his death to sort of pay respect to the fans.
We don't really want to go into too much detail because it will ruin it for you, but
it's a nice...
It's just, it's really nice and quite touching.
So Neil, would you recommend this film to anyone?
I would recommend this film to sort of anyone who really liked the J.J. Abrams movies. I think if you were sort of turned away by the Into Darkness, I think come back for this because it really brings you back into what Star Trek was supposed to be. I'd also recommend it to Trekkies. I think there's a lot of sort of fan service in there and you'll really appreciate everything they're doing. And yeah, it's just a really fun sort of summer blockbuster, which I didn't expect it to be on the back of Into Darkness. So Samuel, would you recommend this movie to anyone?
Yeah, again, just Trekkies, fans of the first Star Trek film, because I don't think anyone likes the second one, no.
Terrible.
If you have never jumped into Star Trek before, give this one a go, because this is a great Star Trek film to sort of jump in on.
Mhm.
It's got a great feel, it's very reminiscent of the original ones, and I think a lot of people will like it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So that was our spoiler-free review. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked what you heard, give this video a like or a subscribe if you haven't.
Please don't leave spoilers in the comments, because some people watching this may not have seen the film yet. So thank you very much. Cheers.
Cheers. Sadly, this movie is slightly inconsistent to the other films because there's no lens flares. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
I missed them.
What the fuck's the lens players?